Namo Amida Butsu. If you're new to this topic or this channel, I suggest you check out my introductory video. This is a response to a comment I got, and it's actually the second, this is take two. I watched take one and the feed was really fuzzy, so I'm going to do it again. So someone came by and posted some sentiments that were definitely, I don't know, contradictory, critical of Jodo Shinshu. And so the question is how to respond. So first and foremost, I'm going to say how I'm not going to respond and how Shinran and Renyo asked us not to respond to such things. So Renyo makes it very clear not to put down other Buddhist paths and not to belittle other Buddhas or Bodhisattvas. Yes, on this path, we see Amitabha as the Supreme Buddha. And that doesn't mean we go to Guanyin temples and start, a temple dedicated to Guanyin and start preaching like, hey, Amitabha is the Supreme Buddha, or someone who's into feeling drawn to Vipassana. We don't go up and start lecturing them about self-power and other power. It's not cool, and it's not wise. If you think about it, to do such a thing is to literally interfere in their relationship with Amitabha, with other Buddhas and other Bodhisattvas. And, I have trouble like keeping my house clean and orderly, much less, guiding someone on their path to Buddhahood. So that's a big no-no. If someone comes to you wanting, has questions about the Jodo Shinshu path, that's a very different story. And so I'm going to read this comment, which I've moved to the discussion tab under my channel, and that's not me inviting it to become a discussion, by the way. So this person wrote, just sharing my view. I take it back to the sutra, Amida Sutra. I mean, all these traditions are created by people, and it seems we put so much effort of these teachings and not on the teachings of Shakyamuni the Buddha. We have seen how the Buddha taught so many ways, methods, 84,000. So, okay, I'm going to stop right there. So, okie dokie. He writes, we seem to put so much effort on these teachers and not on the teachings of Shakyamuni the Buddha. Okie dokie. So here's where Jodo Shinshu differentiates from most others, not all, but most other Buddhist paths, which is study of the sutras is most for the goal. Okay, so the goal is Buddhahood. Our way of attaining Buddhahood is through rebirth in the Pure Land. And on the Jodo Shinshu path, the way to do that is through entrusting in Amida. End of story. The study of sutras is irrelevant to this path, and it can actually get in the way. Honen and Shinran, these great Buddhist scholars would come to them, and Shinran and Honen would, basically share this path and invite them to entrust themselves in Amida Buddha. And they would do the same thing with illiterate peasants, and then they would often, I don't know how often, but point out like, oh, with the illiterate peasant, their birth is settled. With the Buddhist scholar, I'm not so sure about their rebirth. So Honen differentiated between the path of sages and then, I don't know, the path of idiots, I forget. the path for the lowest class of people, which Honen considered himself, which Shinran considered himself, which I consider myself, which those of us on this path, we consider ourselves the lowest class of people. And so what this person is talking about is the path of sages, studying the sutras, doing practice. In a little bit, it's going to get to the contemplation sutra and doing practices. So dude, if you're qualified for that, go for it. I'm not. Honen wasn't. Shinran wasn't. Nagarjuna, one of the greatest Buddhist practitioners of all time, I don't know, felt that he wasn't and chose this path of reliance on Amitabha. The comment continues. I almost want to stop there. I think I'm going to break this down piece by piece. So that's the first piece. His sort of assertion that we're spending too much time focusing on these traditions created by people and not enough time reading the sutras directly. That's not what Jodo Shinshu is about. You know, Honen and Shinran taught primarily to illiterate peasants who would have no idea. They wouldn't know what the Amida Sutra is. And this comment gets into some technical issues. They wouldn't have any clue about any of these things. You know, there's a phrase, the village idiot, which has all these derogatory, meanings attached to it, but that's who this path is primarily for. The village idiot, the illiterate, uneducated person, or the rest of us who are highly educated village idiots. So I'm going to break this comment down. Yeah. I'm glad the other video was fuzzy because I'm going to break it down. So that's just part one of response. Let's see if there's anything I want to close with. This is not to discourage this person or anyone from following the path of sages. Go for it. I'm on this path because I was and am an utter failure, as is my buddy Shinran, as was his teacher Honen. That's what this tradition is all about. And if that doesn't speak to you, then keep at it. Keep on pursuing the path of sages. Maybe you'll make it. I would, it's not for me to discourage you from doing that, just to pass along what Shinran and Honen said. Honen said we need to distinguish between the path of sages and the path for those of us who aren't qualified for the path of sages. Shinran just flat out said, no one's qualified for the path of sages anymore. But you know what? Each person has to determine for themselves whether that's true or not. Thank you so much for joining in. Namo Amida Butsu.